Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The Redevelopment Agency meeting of December 17, 2008 is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2 and are closed captioned for our hearing impaired viewers. The Redevelopment Agency meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the city's website at www.kclv.tv. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV Channel 2 and the web the Wednesday of the meeting at 8 p.m. and also on Friday at 4 a.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 7 a.m., and the following Monday at 1 p.m. As you know, we have a state-of-the-art fire detection and suppression sprinkler system in our chambers here, so should an alarm go off, please exit. Wait until our marshals say it's safe to come back in, and we just make this statement as a matter of course. No reason to expect that anything would happen. Call item number 3, approval of the final minutes by reference of the regular Redevelopment Agency meeting of November 19, 2008.
Move to accept, Your Honor.
All right, there's a motion. Let's vote, please. Post. Motion carries. The record should reflect that Councilwoman Tarkanian is excused. Unfortunately, her dad is ill, and she's up with him at this point in time, so she won't be with us today. And we, of course, wish her well and wish him well. Councilman Brown is not excused.
He's late.
I want the record to really reflect that. Okay, item number 4 is RA 19-2008, discussion and possible action regarding a resolution finding the project proposed by the Entertainment Visual Improvement Program agreement between the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency and T. Brio Roman numeral 2 LLC owner and DTM on Fremont LLC tenant and EVIP participant located at 517 Fremont Street, Suite 110, to be in compliance with and in furtherance of the goals and objectives of the redevelopment plan, and authorizing the execution of the EVIP agreement by the RTDA not to exceed $75,000 from the RDA Special Revenue Fund. This is in Ward 5, and this item is related to Council Item number 58, which we'll hear later on.
Good morning.
Mr. Adams.
Good morning. Scott Adams, Operations Officer of the Redevelopment Agency. This item respects a visual improvement program grant for property at 517 Fremont that is planned to be developed as a nightclub called Don't Tell Mama, which would be a piano bar. I have on the overhead some befores and afters, well, actually depictions of what the signage would look like that would go on this building. This grant would go for primarily signage. It's $28,000 of total work. Most of that goes into the signage. There would be a little bit of work in painting and stucco repair, but the bulk of the funds would go towards illuminated and blade signage that would go on the building and be consistent with several of the other businesses that we participated in within the entertainment district. Just by reference, if you look at the pictures on the screen in that lower left-hand corner, the pink building on the right-hand side is the beauty bar, and so this would go into a joined building that's immediately to the left of the existing beauty bar. This, as you know, we participate to the level of 50% on this, and so out of the $28,000, we would be committing half of the funds under this project. There is the owner of the business is here, and he could answer any questions you have regarding this project.
A little confused. We have the $75,000, but you're talking about $28,000. Is that what?
Yeah. No. Well, what we've done is simply indicate the maximum liability that we would have on any business in this area, but specifically, if you go into the application, we are looking at a project that comprises $28,000.
All right. One other question. I thought that the contribution would not exceed $50,000, other than if it were on a corner. Am I wrong?
Correct. There is a bonus in the entertainment district for illuminated signage that goes above and beyond the 50%. The VIP program in the entertainment district is a little different than outside the entertainment district because we're really trying to get the businesses in that area to really do something to their fronts with illuminated signage. In this case, none of that really applies because their request is for substantially less than any of the guideline limits under the entertainment district program.
Thank you.
Question?
Question?
Do we have the culinary's approval of this?
Oh. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Councilman Barlow?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I would like to move forward to follow staff's recommendation of this item. However, I do have a question for the applicant. When do you anticipate opening the Don't Tell Mama?
Well, we did anticipate before the new year, but it seems like the contractor is dragging the work out. So I'm thinking about January 15th.
January 15th, so mid-January?
Yes.
Okay, and just give me a brief description of what will take place inside of the tavern.
We are a piano bar, so we hire like singer and singer working for us as a bartender and waitress, and we have open mic and we invited guests up to sing also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what is your hours of operation?
We open from 6 until 4 in the morning.
6 and 4 in the morning?
Right.
Okay. So I would like to move to follow staff's recommendation of approval of this item, subject to all conditions.
Very good. Let's vote, please. Opposed? Motion carries. And may the record reflect that the seat next to me has been filled.
Thank you.
Item number 5 is report and possible action regarding redevelopment agency projects currently under contract or for negotiation, other projects proposed or under construction within or near the redevelopment area, and to provide an overview of programs and initiatives pertaining to wards 1, 3, and 5. Mr. Adams.
Okay, I'm waiting for the PowerPoint to come up here. This is the routine quarterly update that we always give regarding the progress made on various projects and initiatives within the redevelopment agency over the last quarter. What I thought I'd do, though, because we really haven't done this in quite some time, it really probably since maybe '06 when we last expanded the redevelopment area, thought this might be a good time to describe basically what the redevelopment agency is, and a little bit about its boundaries and a little bit about how tax increment financing works, because everything that goes hereafter in the report really predicates on that basis. The redevelopment agency was formed under state law in 1986. There's Nevada Revised Statutes, Section 279, which authorizes the creation of a redevelopment agency. It is both an agency and it works in an area called a redevelopment area. That area was formed in 1986 and has been expanded several times since '86, and I'll show you a map in a minute that shows how that area has been expanded several different times. Primarily, although there are other reasons, but primarily the purpose of a redevelopment agency is the elimination of slums and blight. To establish the physical boundary of a redevelopment agency and area, you have to make a blight finding. And it isn't you can just drive down the street and say it's blighted. You actually have to physically do building and property condition surveys and document that at least a majority of the area is blighted before it can be included in a redevelopment area. And that's a very, very important finding because at some point, if down the road, anybody were to challenge, for example, the use of the agency's powers, it really goes back on that blight finding that, was it really a blighted area and you pulled it in? One of the primary tools used by the redevelopment agency is tax increment financing. Tax increment financing is a way that new taxes generated within that area, that physical area, are captured and allowed to be reinvested back into the area to eliminate blight. The theory is that over time, an area has declined in value due to the blight, and that you can capture the increase in new taxes that come into it, reinvest back into the area to overcome the blight that was found at the time you established it. The City Council, in the case of Las Vegas, sits as the redevelopment agency board, and like this meeting, the agency meets under separate meetings. The agency is legally separate from the City of Las Vegas. the redevelopment agency is not the city of Las Vegas. It's its own separate entity and agency under the eyes of the state law. However, it is managed by city staff. And just to illuminate, the city manager is the executive director of the agency, and the agency's day-to-day operations are managed by the Office of Business Development. That's why when I come on, I say I'm the operations officer, because we operate the day-to-day operations of the redevelopment agency. So that's just a capsulized overview of how it was formed, what its purposes are, and how how it gets established. And
Yes.
I'm sorry, Scott, may I insert a quick question?
sure.
You said the RDA was created by the state legislature about 22 years ago. Is there more than one RDA for
No.
the state of Nevada?
Yes, almost every major city in the state of Nevada has established a redevelopment agency. We have
Certainly Henderson and North Las Vegas.
Henderson, North Las Vegas, Sparks, Reno, a number of the major cities have redevelopment agency. And even further, probably every major city in the United States has a redevelopment agency. There are many, many states that have established state laws that authorize redevelopment agencies that are very, very similar in operation in how they look to the agencies established under Nevada state law. We
Does
took
San
our
Diego-
law from other states.
Does San Diego have a redevelopment agency?
Absolutely, very
Is there
successful.
downtown area in the redevelopment agency?
Absolutely. In fact, I think one would say when you study and look at San Diego, which I have done quite a bit, they would never have achieved the success that they've realized in the redevelopment of their downtown, which is cited as one of the great American examples, without the establishment of their redevelopment agency.
I lived in San Diego for about 7 years before moving to Las Vegas in 1980. And when I lived down there in San Diego, I had a couple of jobs in the downtown area. And I remember the downtown San Diego area back in the 70s when there was blight and a lot of room for improvement. And look at where that city is today, primarily as a result of their redevelopment agency. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I could name another half dozen great cities that have great downtowns or great urban cores that achieve that through the agency activities of their redevelopment agencies.
If I could just make a comment, piggybacking on top of what Councilman Wilson said, when I was first elected, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but I made a tour down in San Diego of the redevelopment agency, and the person that was basically responsible for San Diego's success came up here and worked with our staff here to help us get on track with our redevelopment process. And it was really good for me to be able to go down there and understand what they had accomplished and what we was looking to accomplish here through the redevelopment agency.
And if I can add, Your Honor,
Yes, Councilman.
as Mr. Adams goes through this to explain to us, the city council, and to the folks here in the audience and at home, how the RDA was established, what its role is and its function. These are all wonderful questions about other cities as well, but I'm wondering, through Mr. Adams's office and our public information office, Director Riggleman, if we can't bundle this information readily accessible for the public. So when they ask about our redevelopment agency and its functions and how it got here and where we're going, how can we provide that information to the public whenever they need it? I mean, is there something we can do on Channel 2? Is it something we just direct folks to your office? I think it's important that the citizens of this city understand why we do it and the effect it's having on our downtown economy.
Absolutely. And actually, we can also put that on the agency's website. This would be a good time to point out that a lot of this project information that I'm going through this morning is available on the agency's website, which is lvrda.org. lvrda.org. That website, which is separate from the city's website because it is a separate agency, has a whole host of information about projects and initiatives of the agency that I go through this morning, but in more detail. And whatever we put together capsulized we can put on that as well, so the public can get it there.
Well, and Your Honor, I say that because as we are out in the community, in our neighborhoods, oftentimes people ask, well, tell us about this redevelopment agency. You know, what's its function and how does it work, and are these tax dollars right out of my pocket, and what are we doing exactly in the redevelopment areas of the city of Las Vegas? It would be nice to have that information. It would be nice to direct the public so they have a good understanding of what it is we do as a redevelopment agency.
Mr. Adams? Mayor?
Yes.
Just to follow up with my colleagues, I understand that the tax increment financing is reinvested back in the redevelopment agency. However, can you touch on where those dollars actually come from as we talk about the tax increment financing?
Actually, my next slide goes into that a
Okay,
great
great.
deal. I had two more slides, this one and the next one. The next one goes into infinite detail on how TIF works, because I
Okay.
think it's one of probably the more misunderstood concepts, not just here, but all over the U.S. in terms of how redevelopment agencies work and how they kind of self-finance their efforts. This shows simply what I said before, which is there's a core area that was established in 1986, the original redevelopment area when the agency was established, and then you see different colors that show areas that were added 3 times, resulting in the last expansion in 2006 that comprises the current redevelopment area as you operate as an agency today. Every one of these areas have been found to be substantially blighted. We've had to make findings every time these areas are brought in that the predominant property in that area is blighted. That's documented in a report. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, and there's a lot of detail in here. I want to thank Mark Vincent for this slide, is how TIF works. This is a graph, and I'm going to go through this fairly carefully because it shows values, property values over time, and the vertical measurement on the chart is values, property values, tax revenues, and on the bottom.
You might want to help us here because the computer doesn't have the full description on the left-hand upper side as to what the figures stand for. If it's possible to move it a little bit to the right. I guess
my screen's showing everything on. I'm looking at all the screens.
For instance,
Everything.
what is the top line?
The
Over agency
yeah.
base, and then what's the next line?
Other agency increment,
And the following line?
RDA increment, and then bottom is total taxes.
Okay, thank you.
The important is the concept of how this works. The red on the graph, the red represents when you establish a redevelopment area, the assessor fixes the base assessment in that area. And that's represented in red. If you notice at the beginning there, you see -10 at the bottom to 0. 0 is a year in which the area is established. The theory there is that property values have been declining because of blight prior to the establishment of the redevelopment area. So to arrest blight, stabilize values, and to keep that decline in value and blight from spreading into the rest of the city, you establish a redevelopment area. And at that point it's established, which is 0 at the bottom of the scale, that's year 0, you fix at a base assessment. The taxes coming out of that base assessment continue to go to all the taxing jurisdictions that receive those taxes. The school board, the county, and all the other taxing jurisdictions. They are held harmless at the point you establish the redevelopment area. They don't lose any of their revenues. Then from that point forward, as new projects occur in the redevelopment area as a result of the redevelopment agency's efforts, you start to see property values increase. That's what we've experienced here in downtown Las Vegas in our redevelopment area. That's represented by the blue. And what you see there is a white area. Under the state law, there's certain portions of that increase that are voter-approved debt that are protected and continue to go to those taxing jurisdictions. Predominantly the school board. The school board has approved, voter-approved construction and bond initiatives where those taxes continue to go to them. And the interesting thing is, you notice here, as taxes increase over time, we, as a redevelopment agency, share in that increase, but the amount that goes to that voter-approved portion that goes to the school board increases as well. So as we're successful in the redevelopment agency in expanding and growing our tax base, we're growing it for the school board too. That it doesn't just stay fixed at a finite amount based on the year in which we brought it in. It grows along with our growth. Now at the end, the theory behind this is at the end of the sunset of the agency, which in our case was 45 years, we sort of turn the keys over to a new car to all the taxing jurisdictions. It all goes back to everybody at the end of that sunset. Right now that sunset is currently proposed, is in the law to be 2031. So you see there's three portions of value there. The red is the part that is fixed. It's the base value of the area. Those taxes continue to go to all the existing taxing jurisdictions. The white is the voter-approved portion that grows as we grow that new value, and the blue is the part that comes back to the agency, and it's sort of like a company. When a company grows its profit, it takes some of those profits and puts them back into the company to expand it even more. That's what we're doing in the redevelopment agency.
So, Your Honor, if I may?
Yes.
So, Mr. Adams, as we create more redevelopment downtown, we are actually contributing to our school
Absolutely.
board? I mean,
And that's been one of the most misunderstood things about the RDA. We protect the base. We're not just taking all these new taxes, the existing and new taxes, and throwing all these other taxing jurisdictions under the bus. They're protected by the base that was there at the time the agency was formed. And as we grow that incremental tax, there's a portion that's voter approved that continues to go to them. And not only does it go to them, it grows along with our growth. And you can see that in the graph. As the whole increment grows, their portion grows with it.
And that is significant to note. The more redevelopment we create, the more money goes to the school district. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Interesting to know.
It's a win-win for everybody. There's revenue neutral at the beginning. It allows a growth of a tax base, and along with that growth, we're sharing that with the voter-approved portion. We're not circumventing the intent of the voters that approved that debt. So it's a win-win all the way around. And then at the end of the life of the redevelopment agency, all of that, if you go out to the end there at year, let's say 45, you see we've dramatically increased tax. I'll give you an example, and I'll show you this at the end of the presentation. 5 years ago, the value of the area was $8 million. We were realizing $8 million a year in taxes. Today, it's 25. We tripled it in 5 years. At the end of the life of the redevelopment agency, that all goes back to the taxing jurisdiction. But portions of that are continuing to grow and go back to them as we grow it.
If I can, Your Honor?
Sure.
How does that affect, Mr. Adams, the other things we need to provide services to our community? Public safety, fire, police. Are we also increasing those contributions on that tax base?
Well,
for
that's the
those?
theory of the base. The theory of the base is it would not be a win-win if when you established the area, you took all the tax base. The theory of the base is there's a basic level of service that needs to continue to be provided by government, whether it's the schools, the county, the city, and that's protected, and that keeps it revenue neutral. And then the voter-approved portions continue to grow along with the growth of the increment.
Scott, Mayor, Mark Vincent. If I might, just to add a little clarity, Scott's exactly right. Things like the Metro override, our fire override, and the portions of the voter-approved debt override for the school district continue to flow. Just to be perfectly clear, the 75% school district operating rate does not, just like our operating. Principally what happens is the operating rates, the tax increment growth on the operating rates get go inure to the redevelopment agency, but voter-approved overrides like public safety and school construction, those do continue to flow.
So if I can, Your Honor, so we're not taking anything away from public safety when it comes to fire and police. I mean, we're just,
But that's not entirely accurate. We are obviously taking away the operating portion of the tax base, the growth in the tax base and the redevelopment area, the blue portion that represents the operating tax rate, yes.
Well, I respectfully disagree, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Assume, for the sake of argument, that we did not have a redevelopment agency, and we didn't have the ability to give incentives in order to attract businesses like the World Market Center and the discount mall. We would be dealing with the red part of the graph. The red part of the graph, though, would not remain constant because that represents a blighted area. And as time would go by and there'd be no development, it would keep on going down, and the tax base would keep on going down over a period of time. So when you go out to the year 2031, you'd end up with virtually an inner city that was a slum and a core which had no vitality whatsoever. This gives us the ability to maintain the blighted area tax base, but at the same time to go up as far as the increment is concerned. So with me, it's not even close. Ms. Fretwell.
Just another point to remember, we have used the redevelopment agency to help establish a fire station 143 in the Alpha Omega deal. Union Pacific Railroad area, when we start building out the 61 acres, the deal with Newland indicates that there will be a fire station and a police substation as a part of that overall development. So there are a lot of contributions that cross into what services are needed to provide critical public services in the redevelopment area. So there's not only the points that the mayor just raised of the red would be continuing on a downward slope, you've got continued contribution to those for voter-approved overrides in the white, and then you've got an escalating long-term value in the blue that ultimately returns to the general fund to be able to provide all those services. Meanwhile, we make deals in the blue to get the capital and sometimes operating as necessary to provide those same services in the redevelopment area.
and I think that's the picture we're trying to paint here, is that everything that the redevelopment agency does benefits this community all the way around.
Right. I would have to weigh in on, I got to weigh in on what the mayor said, because I think he's correct. I think, like I said, I could point out a half
Mayor's
dozen
always
cities.
correct.
No.
Mr. Addison.
Always. You're always right, Mr. Mayor. But
Better watch yourself.
that could, like I said, I could point out a half dozen cities that have done a great job in the use of their redevelopment agencies to revitalize our urban core. There's probably another half dozen that haven't, and the blight, because they haven't harnessed redevelopment agencies and done the things that we've been doing, that blight continues to march outward and negatively impact good neighborhoods in a city. So that if you establish a strong redevelopment program and arrest and stabilize that blight, you keep it from going out into good neighborhoods of a community.
Mayor Goodman.
That's borne out in many, many cities.
And that's just one more point I want to make. It's kind of the flip side to this. If we didn't have the RDA and the ability and the incentives that the RDA offers, we would not be able to have completed a number of projects in the redevelopment agency, and there'd probably be a lot of vacant land where otherwise projects are today.
Yep, and you can point to the single-family real estate. There are some of the most attractive neighborhoods that people want to move into immediately adjacent to downtown now. they're some of the hotter neighborhoods because people want to live in the core now. And so it's further testimony to the fact that we've started to arrest that blight and started to establish a more positive image for the urban core.
And if I may, the RDA, which was established by our state legislature, the rules that govern the RDA strictly limit what we can do with the agency as far as investments and projects. We can't just go out and willy-nilly build anything we want.
That's
Can you
correct.
expand on that a little, Scott?
Yeah, that's governed by two things. It's governed by the statute. The statute is very specific on the powers, the authorities, and the uses granted by law to the agency for use of its funds and the things it can do. And then we further take that and incorporate that into your redevelopment plan. The plan then further establishes either more tighter controls about how it can operate within the area. And so those two things are the controlling documents. One is the state law, and the other is how you adopt your plan and what's in that plan limits or controls it further how you operate within the area.
And finally, if I may, Mayor, the private sector continues to play a vital role in the redevelopment agency's efforts. We need private sector participants to come in and want to reinvest in the redevelopment agency, do we not?
Absolutely, and the next part of my presentation will walk you through, just like we've done every quarter, all the different projects we've been involved in. I think you'll start to see a trend here that, this is a good point to make, that in the early years of the agency, and this is very typical, you don't see a lot of initial growth in value. It's a patient, long-term investment program. You make the initial investments, you're very comprehensive and consistent in a strategy, and at some point, you start to realize accelerated return on investment. And you can see that in the growth of the curve of the uptick in values and uptick in return on investment. And this is a conceptual graph that pretty closely mimics what's happened here in Las Vegas. On the tail end of the presentation, I got real graphs to show what's really happened with the values in downtown Las Vegas.
And I'd like to make one other point before you go on. Just to envision when you're hearing the presentation that if we did not incentivize the projects, we'd be having 100% of the red bar going down. None of these projects would have come here but for the fact that we partnered with them with the tax increment financing, that we gave certain benefits for them to come here, which then creates the blue. It just wouldn't have happened. We would not have had the World Market Center. We now are really a 41% partner with them. 18%, as you know, goes to affordable housing, and people should not forget that as to who needs affordable housing in the area as well. And then we're partners with World Market Center, 41% on the tax increment. We're partners with the Chelsea Discount Mall, 41%. But for those kind of arrangements, we'd be dealing with the red blighted area going downward and downward and downward. We'd have 100% of blight rather than 41% of success.
And Mayor, if I may jump in just real quick, because we're talking about the downtown. However, I represent one of the most distressed wards in the city. And if it weren't for the redevelopment agency and its efforts, a lot of the development that is taking place, for example, just in the historic West Las Vegas community, we wouldn't have those projects online and the synergy and the energy, if you will, that is coming into the area. So we're talking about neighborhoods, not just the downtown communities. We're talking about affecting those individuals who have lived in the community just as long as downtown has been a downtown. And so a lot of those longtime residents, Mayor, a lot of friends of yours from the community, their communities are now being turned around and now have an opportunity to thrive once again and share in a lot of the advantages the redevelopment agency has brought to the residential communities. And so for that, I depend heavily, it's almost a lifeline for me as a council person representing my district to utilize the redevelopment agency, because it not only partners with the private sector, but it also provides those incentives in order to bring about the commercial development, such as the new grocer that has come into the neighborhood that has been gone for such a long time, but also has brought the private sector in to bring in the residential and mixed-use developments as well to really fill the gaps of those vacant parcels that have existed for such a long time. So it's a compilation of not only the downtown, but the inner city neighborhoods also.
I want to make one more point here, and this is directed to directly the taxpayers of the city of Las Vegas. If you didn't have the redevelopment agency and you wanted to pursue the redevelopment of your urban core, if you wanted to do it without the RDA and tax increment financing, you would have to fund 100% of the cost of this on your backs of the general fund.
And that's not the case, is it, Mr.
No,
That
no.
is not the case.
We are sharing for a temporary time in the taxes that all taxing jurisdictions receive to reinvest back into the urban core so you can stabilize the tax base so it doesn't further erode for those taxing jurisdictions, and that gets at the point that you made,
Your
Mr.
Honor,
Mayor.
Councilman Barlow kind of hit it on the head. As our country faces one of the worst economic times, this is an absolute economic stimulus for the city of Las Vegas and its residents and its neighborhoods. And we see that every day as we are out in our wards, how this is affecting the people who live here. And I think that's important to note. I think, Mr. Adams, your presentation, you will show us that the reinvestment of just people and jobs, reinvesting in those people, is going to make a big difference in regards to our structure.
Right. Let me,
Mayor Burton?
Yes, I just asking Dave Briggleman if he could get a copy of this tape and send it to the Culinary Union.
Hopefully they're watching now.
let me continue on. I know time's limited here this morning. And I'll go back into, I just wanted that little front-end piece to kind of educate the public, because we haven't done this in quite a while. The last time we expanded the RDA, where we kind of gave this overview, was back in 2006. So I think it was long overdue that we kind of give an overview of how the RDA works. This really summarizes since 2004, when we really started to realize the return on investment downtown, of what's been happening. We've had 105 projects completed for $1.6 billion. We have 165 in the pipeline that represents $16.2 billion. That's created 9,700 construction jobs, 7,500 permanent jobs, with a total project valuation of $2.9 billion, all because of a redevelopment program. And I'll just start to walk you through project by project. What I've done on this presentation, unlike past ones, where we've got it available, readily available, we've included valuations of projects and jobs, just so you can see as we go through. I'm not going to mention all of these, but you're going to be able to see as we go through visually what each of these projects has done. And you can see that those rolled up numbers that I just showed you we didn't make them up. You can see these big projects that are going into the ground. There were a lot of construction workers on those. There's a lot of permanent jobs being created, and it's very visual in terms of what the impact's been. World Market Center's been one of those big ones. Big project valuation. It didn't exist 5 years ago, but it is the #1 taxpayer downtown today. Did not exist. And it was a result of a redevelopment program. And consistently, 1,200 construction jobs. And, just look inside. These are 3 of the biggest buildings in the valley as a result of a redevelopment program. And it's been face-changing in terms of the economy. We've moved in a different direction, building on the backs of our meetings and convention industry. And, of course, they have a long-term build-out plan for their project, which was in the billions. The Las Vegas Premium Outlets, another non-gaming project downtown. Another big one in terms of job generation. Construction jobs, permanent jobs, total value, very successful project. Simon Properties is one of the more successful and strongest retail developers in America. Mulaski
Can you stop
Corporate
there?
Center.
Can you stop there? Your Honor, isn't this the most successful in the country? In regards
It's
to-
one of the highest on a sales per square foot in the U.S. Now, obviously retailers, because of the macroeconomy, are struggling right now, but because of where it's located, downtown, it's enjoyed incredible sales per square foot.
And I don't know about the rest of the council or even the audience here today, but I always have a hard time finding a parking place when I go down there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
If you had been there the Saturday after Thanksgiving, it was, people were camping out. Christy Gardner from the city, she slept overnight in front of the Coach store there. At least that's what I was told by the security guard. And the valet said to me, she said, Mayor, it's 11 o'clock in the morning when I got over there for the Salvation Army kettle drive. She said, Mayor, I've made more money today in tips than I have the entire year combined.
Mayor, it's interesting.
In this economy.
It's interesting that you mentioned that as well, because one of my staff members approached me yesterday and said, Councilman, it took me 30 minutes to find a parking spot on Saturday. I said, where were you? He said, downtown Chelsea Outlet. I said, 30 minutes to find a parking spot? He says, I went over to the county building. I, went over to the parking garage at the outlet, and finally they opened up another area which he had to walk a little ways to get to the mall. And I thought that was, quite surprising at number one, but I was smiling at the same time going, there's business
Right.
downtown, so you're dead on.
I'm going to just kind of focus on some what I call the trendsetters here in what we've been doing downtown, because they really, the World Market Centers established a trend of showing the success of marts as part of a new economic base of the valley. Same way with Mulaski Corporate Center. This is the first big Class A building downtown in a long time, and has really opened the eyes of a number of investors to the potential of building Class A office space in the center of the valley downtown, and really sets us up in the future for attracting new business and industry into downtown by creating new office space. So
There's not a vacancy in there.
no, they've leased everything out.
Leased out at the highest lease rates in the valley.
So we estimate, and because there's so many tenants, we estimate there's over 1,100 employees now in that building. We see you've entitled the Grand Central Hotel on Grand Central Parkway and Union Park. Union Park alone will have a total build-out value of $6 to $8 billion, and we estimate the job generation alone on Union Park to be about 11,700 direct jobs. This isn't construction, it isn't the multiplier impact, it's the direct employment that we expect to occur on Union Park amongst all 17 blocks when you build the whole project out. The Lou Ruvo Brain Institute is the first phase of that. It's one of the smallest buildings, but it as well will have incredible employment in that small of a building, and is another trendsetter because this is a major cutting-edge healthcare institute that starts to set the tone for new kinds of businesses that will come into Union Park and move us in a different direction in terms of our economic base. Smith Center for the Performing Arts, the same thing, is another trendsetter. This is a performing arts center for Las Vegans, not a commercial arena like you see up and down the Strip.
And this is becoming a centerpiece for great architects. Jardy, who did the Bellagio, did the World Market Center. Frank Gehry did the Lou Ruvo Brain Institute, and David Schwartz is doing the Smith Center for Performing Arts. 3 world-class architects, which is incredible.
The World Jewelry Center is another major project. I didn't have on for this morning the exact employment estimate on this one, but it will be substantial because it is a huge building. The Charlie Palmer is another one of those planned in Union Park. Newland's 7 blocks of residential will drive a lot of new construction jobs. This is their first phase planned, which is on Parcel F, which would be a mix of low-density, mid, and high-rise residential with ground floor retail. And the idea of Union Park is to establish a lifestyle, a city within a city, and again, further attract more people to live downtown, to bring their businesses downtown, and further solidify the base. Parcel B is one that we're in negotiations on, and that right now is looking at a continuing care and retirement community that adds another dimension. Not just folks traditional market rate housing, but now to add the retirement element. One of the biggest trends in Las Vegas over the last 10 years in housing is the incredible growth of Las Vegas as a retirement community, and so we're looking at that potential market downtown as well. Live Work Las Vegas is another project. We've talked about this before, mixed-use development that involves the City Hall, the RTC terminal, but when you look at the use breakdown, office, retail space, gaming use, the total build-out, there would be an incredible number of jobs. With 1 million square feet of office alone, those office buildings are all filled up. That would be an incredible number of new employees working downtown. Same with the new hotel casino on parcel PQ. The rule of thumb on casinos is it creates about a job per room in a project like that. So with a 1,000-room hotel on there, you would look at somewhere around 1,000 new jobs being generated on that project alone. This was the schedule. We've kind of, I'm going to skip by this real quick because we went over this in great detail at a prior council meeting in terms of where we're at on the whole schedule of the Live Work project. The City Hall site in the 12 acres next door, we're currently in discussions with a national developer for looking at that site. We estimate that value could be as much as $150 million, probably half that though, but its potential project value is at least $800 million and could generate as many as 3,300 jobs on that site alone if you look at potentially a gaming use, retail, and a wide variety of mixed uses. It's very comparable to Live Work. The Cashman Center project, I indicate that as a result of our deadline for RFP intent letters last week, we did receive 6 letters of intent for parties interested in the redevelopment of the Cashman Center site. All they are letters of intent. We'll know exactly when we receive the full proposals what they plan to do and who the different parties are in each of those teams, but we did get 6 letters of intent. So in spite of a down economy, we're still seeing robust interest in the redevelopment of our urban core.
Mayor Goodman? I mean, that's exactly what I was going to ask you, and you took the words out of my mouth, is that in spite of our financial situation, internationally, nationally, and of course Las Vegas, we're still getting interested parties approaching the city of Las Vegas to invest in the city of Las Vegas, invest in our downtown core. That's an incredible statement just right there.
Yes. Moving along in residential, of course, we've completed the Allure Tower, and the residential projects, they don't generate a lot of permanent jobs because obviously they just have usually front desk people and maintenance people and that kind of thing. They do generate a lot of construction jobs. To build these buildings takes a lot of labor and a lot of jobs. The Avenue project over on Tonopah, Campeche Place, City Center Apartments, these are all ones that have gone in over the last 10 years. Loctane. And the other thing I have to mention here is a number of these are affordable housing projects. It isn't just high-end market rate housing that we've been building as a result of the redevelopment program. We've been building affordable rentals as well. There's something in the redevelopment program for everybody.
Mayor Goodman?
Yes.
Sorry. Is Octane full, Scott?
I believe it is.
I think it is. It probably sold out pretty quickly, did it not, Mayor Goodman?
It's rented.
It's rented, okay. But, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of vacagencies.
No, there are no vacancies. There are a couple people who are having serious problems because of the economy and paying their rent, but the developer, he's a pretty decent fellow. He's Mr. Newbern from San Diego. He's working with these people, and no one's losing their place to live over there.
But these are people that want to come and live in our downtown area.
Newport Lofts we've seen opened up. Soho Lofts opened up. Streamline Towers opened up. These are all going on the tax rolls. New tax base, new permanent jobs. We've seen the result of construction
Hey,
jobs.
Scott,
Yes,
let me just stop you for a moment and back up for a second on Streamline. What is the update, any update that you can provide as far as where Streamline is?
I really don't have any there. I do know, as a side note, there's no secret about the fact that opening a major housing project in the midst of the current economy is a challenge for any residential developer. And that's not just something unique to downtown Las Vegas. It's all over America right now. And we're aware of some investor groups that are looking at the possible purchase of the entire building and possibly the conversion of it to a hotel. But at this point, we have not seen anything definite.
Is it vacant?
I believe, and it's been hard to get information on it, but from what I've been able to see is that they've actually sold and closed about 10% of their units.
10% of the units?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Urban loss, Larry Davis, the Tin Man, just keeps trucking along, building units and selling units in spite of everything. And he's got a number of projects that he's moving forward with. And these are ones particularly because he builds on the fringe of the redevelopment area that have a very strong stabilizing influence on the blight that I talked about earlier. Because when you start to go into some of these tougher areas and build investments like these, it really has a positive impact on those areas. Jewel's another one that is just about ready to open. They are finishing up their street work around the project. We're doing everything we can to facilitate getting their certificate of occupancy and helping them out so they can open and hopefully close units and weather the storm of the economy as we experience it today.
I had a very, I think, meaningful conversation with the manager for Jewel, because Jewel is it's integral to the success of what we're trying to establish in the downtown, and we have to get all those units lit up with people in them. And he recognizes it's going to be very difficult to get the mortgage financing. So he's starting a program where people will be able to rent, as I understand the way he was describing it, with the rent being going towards the purchase ultimately of the unit. And he promises me that the whole place will be lit up with people living there. And if that's the case, then that really is the critical mass that will bring the grocery store and the cleaning establishment and the bookstore and the music store and all the things we're trying to create.
I guess if there's any silver lining to it's really hard to find silver linings today and with economic conditions the way they are, but to the drop in values, not just in the regional marketplace, but downtown on housing, especially for sale housing, it's bringing the housing product within reach of more people. And that's particularly acute downtown, where they started at very high values that were only within reach of investors and very high-income individuals. As you start to see the drop in values, you start to see more people able to afford the units. And I think over time, the trend of that will be downtown, you're going to actually see more people who work downtown living downtown. And that's a positive thing. And the entertainment area, this is one of those strategic investments we've made, where we've gone in streetscape, put in the new illuminated signage along the Fremont East District, and we're now starting to see, just like we saw today on the agenda, we have another club moving into the district, taking a vacant building, putting a business into that building and opening and contributing to the overall entertainment district, along with the beauty bar, the cocktail room, the Griffin. We've got a retail business, Fremont Street Guitars. Don't Tell Mama's the one you just approved. We've got a few more planned, the Hive. We are in term sheet negotiations with the group for the rework of 601 Fremont. And that would convert the back of that into, and you see in the lower right-hand corner their sketch of what their vision for the development of this project is: a museum of contemporary art, retail space in the front, club space up above, for a mixed-use project that would anchor the middle of the entertainment district.
And an art movie.
And an art cinema, yes, sir. The venue of Vegas is another one that we've been working with. It's taking the old dealer school site at 760 Fremont and would build that entire property out as a an entertainment venue. They've been very successful in their Scottsdale project in the Scottsdale Entertainment District, and we believe they have financing. We've been working with them to get all of the things they need to get this project under construction. The Block is another area that's 3rd Street. We saw Hogs and Heifers go in, Club Celebrity. Over on Fremont, we saw Hennessy's, Mickey Finn's, the Brass, the Pint, the Big Beer Pint, the Round Club up inside that, and then most recently the opening of the Las Vegas Country Saloon. Paul Hennessy is a believer in downtown. He has now put 4 businesses with millions of dollars in investment into the Red Garage. He believes he's been making money. He's bullish on downtown, or he wouldn't have put a 4th club in.
Mr. Scott, just as a promotional item, Your Honor, I think it would benefit the city of Las Vegas and Mr. Hennessy if that was the mayor sitting on that bull.
No. I had the opportunity, Councilman. I think you were with me.
I was with you.
No, I passed on the bull. No bull from the mayor. No bull for the mayor.
The Canyon Club's another one at the Four Queens. Neonopolis is, I encourage all of you, if you haven't been up to the second level of Neonopolis, to see the Museum of Fine Art, the Center for the Arts. There's an arts incubator there now that is doing very well. Joshi is also planning a wet ultra lounge at the lower level. We saw the Taste of California, Sushihama, and I was recently in New York, met with CBS and NBC that are both very committed. Telemundo is extremely committed to this project, moving forward with everything. The signs are now on the building, as well as CBS, committed to see the relocation of the Star Trek exhibit from the Hilton into the Neonopolis. I had to go there and see for myself that both of those major companies were committed to Neonopolis, and I can assure you they are both very committed to this project. And I think it's going to be interesting to have CBS and NBC both in the same building. I can't wait to see how that works. Bank of America is another one that opened along MLK at Washington. Major reinvestment of America's largest bank in the redevelopment area along MLK. The Enterprise Park, we've seen incredible build-out through the years of a number of projects in Enterprise Park. Cox is one of the largest there, consolidating their regional offices into their headquarters building in the old VA clinic. We saw the Expertise School of Beauty, the FBI regional headquarters, Foundation for an Independent Tomorrow, the RLT Corporation, the McDonald's regional offices, corporate offices and training center, the Urban Chamber of Commerce we continue to work with on their gap financing. And we have now another 7 and 10 acre site available. We're putting the finishing touches on our RFP on. And then moving over on Bonanza, we saw the Ahern project, that was entitled for new development. Alpha Omega continues to work their project forward, and they are making very good incremental progress on their project. Edmond Town Center, we've seen their expansion of the Edmond Town Center. Then we saw the Bilo Market move in to fill the space that Vaughn's formerly vacated. And I have to make a point here. This project wasn't as much about jobs as it was about getting a grocery store in West Las Vegas. We kept our eye on the ball on that one, and that was about getting a grocery store in an underserved market. That was the key thing that we were trying to accomplish with the Bilo Market. Moulin Rouge is another one that's been entitled that has unrestricted gaming rights grandfathered in, has potential along the Bonanza corridor. Moving forward into the core downtown, the El Cortez, I think we all know everything that's been done there. They've refurbished all of their property, added the new suites, Cabana Suites. Golden Nugget has made a major investment into the downtown core with their casino enhancements, their ballroom, their restaurants. Their new gaming tower continues to move forward through construction. The Gold Spike is incredible. You got to peek inside the Gold Spike. It is a major upgrade in the interior of the Gold Spike. That's one of those small ones that makes an incredible impact because it was a very negative, very dirty, grubby project that is now improved. And these are the little ones that are very, very important. CIM, not only the renovation of the Lady Luck, but the planned development of the post office block. This is another big trendsetter. This will create a lot of jobs. With the Mob Museum planned at the post office, that whole area will be transformed. Moving into other areas, we've just opened the Fifth Street School, an incredible project, one of our true landmarks downtown. And then we've had some smaller ones, a number of our VIP projects. We've seen projects that we haven't really had to do a whole lot to make happen that have now are happening because of everything else that's going on with the development of the Callister Reynolds Law Office building. We have the planned Regional Transportation Commission intermodal terminal that will move from the site next door over into the live-work project, thereby providing a much better terminal for use by our transit patrons throughout the valley. And then the development of the new bus rapid transit system that will connect downtown Union Park through the core downtown to the north end of the Strip. And then the plan is to expand that valley-wide to become the region's effectively light rail system. And this gives you a view of what's been going in along Grand Central Parkway. This project is virtually complete along there in terms of the pavement improvements, the landscaping, the dedication of the 2 center lanes for transit movement. We've been working with all the ground floor retail in these projects to attract more retailers into the downtown area through a wide variety of assistance. This just gives you a bird's eye view of one of the new galleries that went into Soho Loss as a result of the retail promotion and filling of ground floor retail in the downtown. So there's a lot of, again, smaller ones that happen that kind of fill in that ground floor and make it a more attractive area. And then quickly moving into the financial performance of the agency, I won't dwell on this because I know it's 9 o'clock, but this shows you the real numbers in terms of graphing the valuation increase that we've experienced over the last 7 years as a result of the redevelopment agency program. There's been a tremendous ramping up of actual tax value and tax revenues as a result of the investments that we've made downtown. And this pie shows how it's distributed in a very diversified way into the different uses. It's not all concentrated in gaming anymore. That is very, very important. I think one of the things, as a side note, that is causing the stubbornness of the recession in the Las Vegas economy is that while we have a diverse tax base, a diverse way of distributing taxes, we only have 2 legs under the stool of our economy: tourism and development and construction. In downtown, we're building a 3rd leg. We're building non-gaming uses that will help stabilize and diversify the economy over time. This chart shows it, that of the top 10 taxpayers, 10 years ago they were all gaming companies. Today, 4 of the top 10 taxpayers are non-gaming use. That clearly shows a movement in the area of diversification of the local economy. And then this shows the result of actual tax dollars received ramping up over the last 6-7 years. So that's the end of my report. If you have any further questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
All right, are there any comments or questions? All right, just ramp it up so when we go up to the legislature, we'll be able to do that in a 10-minute segment, because once they see this, I think they'll let us alone.
Can I make a recommendation, Your Honor, also?
Certainly.
Mr. Adams has been great with me, and as I've needed him to come out and give presentations in the community on downtown redevelopment efforts, I would just suggest that my colleagues take advantage of that when you have a community event or you have a neighborhood meeting of such, to include Mr. Adams and his team in regards to what we're doing downtown, just so we get that message to the residents of this city so they better understand what we're trying to do. Those numbers are great, those graphs are great, but we got to get that message. And Mr. Rugelman, you and I have talked about this, getting that message to the residents of this city so they understand better everything that we're doing to help them in this community.
I would love to, if you have any civic group or organization that would like to see this presentation, we have 5 or 6 people on our staff that would be more than willing to go out and make that presentation.
Mayor, just to follow up with Councilman Ross, last year I actually did that, Councilman Ross, I believe I held approximately 12 neighborhood meetings, and the presentation of what Mr. Adams showed was a large portion of the neighborhood meeting because I wanted to take it to the neighborhood because it was very important that they understood how vital the RDA represented the ward in which I represent. And so I will be doing that again this year. So just so that you know that, that it really helps the community to understand the importance of being in the RDA and takes away a lot of the fears for those individuals who felt that they didn't need to be in the RDA. And after they saw the benefits outweighed the negative stereotype of being in the RDA, they realized that, hey, this is something that can actually build up our community versus tear the community down. And so that is something that I am doing.
Councilman Wilson.
Real quickly, excellent presentation, Scott. I appreciate it. Is there any way that we could put your presentation on a disc along the lines of Councilman Barlow and Councilman Ross to make this information available? But David, is there any way that we could put this on some sort of a disc and make it available to anybody for the asking? Just a thought.
Sure, Councilman. It's on the website. It'll be posted tomorrow. It'll be on demand. People will be able to watch it on their computer. Certainly, if people would like a disc of it, we could get that. But it'll be on television extensively over the next 2 weeks, and it'll be available on the web indefinitely after that. So,
I think that it might be a good idea as we go out in the community in the next few months, educating everybody about what the city is doing. If we could have a certain number, I don't want it to cost too much money. I don't think it would. But a certain number of these discs available at our town halls. Because, Scott, you gave an excellent presentation, kind of a year-end capsulization of the current status of the RDA, and I think it would just be a good idea to have available so somebody could come home and put it in their disc player and watch the current status of the RDA.
it's easy to do.
Thank you. Councilman Brown.
Thank you, Your Honor. Scott, if you could pull up that first chart with the reds and the blues. And Your Honor, it will be a day of reflection for me today, for obvious reasons. But certainly as far as the RDA message that was just delivered, I want to say that it was very impressive to sit here and listen to the discourse of the council, and we'll have more on that later.
It's at the very beginning, and that's the only way to go through it is this way.
All the way back.
Here we go. Whoops.
And I won't reiterate some of the comments that were made earlier, but I did want to point out a couple things that I think are important in communicating the value of the RDA. One is if we could somehow overlay the graph in front of us with the boom, the development valley-wide. I think there's somewhere in here, I think there's an important message that if you take years, certainly years 96 through 2006, that second decade of the RDA, compared to what was happening in the perimeter of the valley, certainly on the Strip, it was just through the roof. There was a building frenzy throughout the valley, and yet, when you look at the RDA in the downtown, I don't think it's going to show that same frenzy.
That's correct.
But the important thing to note here is, I think it's been mentioned by a couple of the colleagues up here, is the foundation was being set for the RDA, and the small incremental steps were being taken. That as people were looking outward, when you, the RDA, and the council had established this foundation downtown, then the incentives started to bring the World Market Center. And somehow, if we could overlay that, I think there's an important message for those that want to attack the RDA. I think they'll look to the end of the graph and see this big blue, but fail to recognize that it's been 20 years in the making to get us to this point. And certainly, someone could throw out, well, it's just the market has driven the success in downtown, and that's not the case. I mean, it's certainly been a major factor, but I'd like to see if you guys could work that out. I think there's an important message there. And also, as I think Councilman Ross pointed out, as well as others, in 2031, when this sunsets, and if things continue as far as the blue, what a powerful message as far as all the other public agencies that are going to share in the success of this RDA. It's essentially going to be a windfall. And at that point, there's going to be a significant positive impact on the school district and on some of those other agencies that others are criticizing we're taking away from now. I don't think we can understate that argument. This is a powerful graph. I think we should embellish on it and take a lot of the things that come off this graph. The mayor mentioned, and I'm not sure, we sometimes take the Mulaski building for granted. We sometimes take Union Park and the LEED certification as the neighborhood for granted. These are just two examples of probably dozens of RDA success stories that we need to communicate to the public. And David, if I'm not mistaken, there was some type of press release this week that I think the Nevada chapter of LEED, is it, designated the city of Las Vegas as an award winner because of these two projects. So a powerful graph and a powerful message to communicate. I think we should really go in and strengthen what someone that's not familiar with the RDA would look and say, geez, there's so much money there. Let's share in that blue pie. And we can't afford to do that. The integrity of the entire RDA is at stake. But Scott, once again, I appreciate the presentation. It's fantastic, full of facts, and certainly a strong positive message to the community. Thank you.
One last comment by myself, and that is when the Ruvo Brain Institute is completed, this will be such a feather in our cap, because the whole world, they've already started looking at it. There have been articles, front page stories in the New York Times about the architectural splendor of the facility itself. But when he brings in a medical staff, which is second to none, which will be looking at the cures for the neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and ALS, and the world focuses in to downtown Las Vegas and said, wow, I mean, look what's happening there. I think it takes us to the major leagues. I think we then become the world-class city that we all aspire to become. And it's going to happen a lot sooner than people think it's going to happen. That's my prediction. It could start to happen next year. It could start to happen within the next 12 months. People will look at us with a great deal of admiration and awe. And to our naysayers and detractors, I can't wait for that to happen, because they will then know that they deserve to be whacked. Okay. Thank you very much for the report. Can I have a motion accepting the report, please?
Move to accept, Your Honor.
All right, let's vote, please. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, this brings us to citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Redevelopment Agency. No subject may be acted upon by the Redevelopment Agency unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come up. We'll put the 3-minute timer on if anyone would like to be heard on a Redevelopment Agency matter. Okay, I see none. Ms. Ingram, did you want to be heard? Okay. I see none, so the Redevelopment Agency is adjourned, and we'll begin our council meeting in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. What's real? Oh.